Metro 2. There are rumors that beneath Moscow, there's a secret subway that isn't on the map. It's called Metro 2, and it's a secret network that, according to the story, was built under Stalin and codenamed D6 by the KGB. Its tunnels are buried 164 to 656 feet deep, and they are said to link the Kremlin, security headquarters, a government airport at Vnukovo 2, and even a sort of underground town in the Remenki district. Officials have neither confirmed nor denied the existence of Metro 2, but the little paperwork we have does show something suspicious. There was at least one confirmed deep line that got under KGB control and was upgraded with blast doors, its own power and air systems, and even a reinforced vehicle hangar. These stories gained more credibility in 1991 when the US Defense Department put out a paper that included a diagram of a secret shelter network under Moscow, with space for thousands of people. Then, in 1994, an urban explorer group claimed they had found a way inside, but it's also not confirmed. Hints have also come from Russian insiders. One presidential advisor said Stalin had his own single-track line from the Kremlin to his dacha, and a former minister spoke of an extensive network of tunnels and an emergency command center. A union leader of the metro remembered drivers being quietly recruited to run secret routes with short trains behind locked gates. Today, the public can only visit related sites, such as the Cold War Museum at Bunker 42, which is a real protected command post connected to the metro, even though it's not part of Metro 2. If it exists, the most famous rumor is the underground city at Remenki. People point to fenced buildings near the university and speak of 15,000 beds and supplies for 30 years. It's very likely that Metro 2 does exist, but we have no way to confirm it, since no one is allowed access. Plutonian at Hierapolis. This place has such a peculiar phenomenon that for years people thought it was the gate that led straight to hell. They noticed that this ancient Turkish city had a cave that couldn't be approached. Nearby animals collapsed and died almost instantly, and birds that flew too close fell to the ground and died. There was a particular ritual, though. Priests, called the Gali, would go down into the cave and come back unharmed. This gave them enormous authority, as they were seen as having divine protection. Visitors would pay the priests and ask questions, then the priests would go down into the cave to seek answers from the deities themselves and come back with the answer. What helped spread this version is the fact that the entrance of the cave was actually hot, with a sulfur smell, as if hell was really down there. With the spread of Christianity, the gates were sealed, and earthquakes in the 6th century destroyed what was left. However, in the 1960s, Italian archaeologists rediscovered the cave and a restored statue of Hades with his three-headed dog, Cerberus, which once stood at the entrance. Most importantly, we finally got an explanation of what was really happening all this time. The cave gave off poisonous carbon dioxide gas. The priests probably survived by staying where thin pockets of oxygen existed, or maybe just by holding their breath for a long time. To this day, you can't get near the cave, as it's still emitting huge amounts of poisonous gas. RAF Menwith Hill. This place is known for its giant white domes, which make visitors curious, but they can't go near them because it's actually one of the most secret listening stations in the world, and some even call it the largest electronic monitoring station on the planet. This place is called Royal Air Force Menwith Hill, and it's a UK base, even though it's mainly used by the United States. It's used to communicate with satellites, listen in on signals from around the world, and detect missile launches. The antennas hidden under those white domes connect to satellites operated by the National Security Agency. Menwith Hill has long been linked to Echelon, a global interception system, and it is one of 3 major US satellite monitoring stations in the world, working closely with another famous base, Pine Gap, in Australia. They chose this place because the location was perfect, quiet radio conditions, and a good angle to listen toward Europe and the Soviet bloc. Nowadays, they even have backup plans to destroy sensitive equipment if needed, such as during an invasion. Some critics argue that this base enabled too much mass interception. The European Parliament itself investigated Echelon and worried about privacy and commercial spying, and activists have protested at the fences since the 1980s. The fenced area now covers about 605 acres, and more than 1,000 people work there. Getting in is basically impossible. They have a central unit that can quickly send out armed officers, and since June 1st, 2007, the station has been legally protected, so trespassing there is a criminal offense. Mount Athos. There's a whole peninsula where basically half of humanity is not allowed to set foot. Mount Athos, known as the Holy Mountain in northeastern Greece. This place is ruled by a community of Eastern Orthodox monks and protected by a rule that bans every woman from entering, including female domestic animals with the exception of cats, as they're useful for hunting mice. This ban is not only a religious tradition but also law, since the Greek government recognizes Athos as a self-governing part of the state under the monks' authority. The monks call it the Garden of the Virgin Mary, and the story goes that the Virgin Mary's ship once drifted to the peninsula during a storm. She loved the beauty of the place and asked Jesus for it to be hers, and a divine voice answered that it would be her garden and a place of salvation. According to the monks, this is why from that moment on, no other woman was to enter. Getting in is not simple, even for men. Athos controls its own border, complete with a fence about 5.6 miles long, and daily visitor numbers are strictly capped. Only 100 Eastern Orthodox laymen and 10 non-Orthodox men may enter per day, and all of them need a special permit. Permits usually last 3 days, and extensions require approval from within Athos itself. One interesting thing is that even though Athos is legally part of the European Union, it has a special status that lets the monks enforce their entry rules, including the ban on women, despite being under EU and Schengen law. Monks come mostly from Greece and Eastern Europe, and when they are admitted as novices or full monks, they automatically receive Greek citizenship. If you were to go inside, you'd find an ancient world that has guarded itself for more than 1,000 years. Monks have lived here since at least the Byzantine era, around the year 800. This is why it holds priceless treasures, such as icons, relics, rare books, ancient documents, historic farm buildings, protected forests, and diverse wildlife. In 1988, UNESCO named it a World Heritage Site. The European Parliament once called for the women's ban to be lifted, but the rule remains in place to this day.